I sat at my childhood dinner table watching my parents and golden boy brother Marcus celebrate their tech company's latest triumph. They mocked my failed life as a freelance consultant while discussing their mysterious anonymous investor who owned 40% of their billion-dollar firm. Marcus announced he'd invited this investor to dinner tomorrow night to show off their success. My heart pounded as I realized tomorrow night I'd have to reveal the truth that would shatter everything they believed about him and themselves. The dining room felt smaller than I remembered, suffocated by years of disappointment and unspoken resentment. My mother, Diana Sullivan, adjusted the crystal glasses for the third time, her professor's precision evident in every calculated movement. At 55, she still carried herself with the academic authority that had once commanded respect in business schools across the country. Tonight, however, her nervous energy betrayed the desperation lurking beneath her composed exterior. "Greg, perhaps you could learn something from tomorrow's dinner," she said, not bothering to look up from her place settings. "Sees. Success requires vision and commitment, qualities your brother has demonstrated consistently." My father, Robert, wiped his engineering-stained hands on a cloth napkin, his weathered face brightening as he discussed Technova Solutions' latest breakthrough in sustainable energy storage. At 58, he remained the brilliant innovator who had revolutionized battery technology in their garage 20 years ago. His calloused fingers traced invisible diagrams on the tablecloth as he explained their newest patents to Marcus, completely ignoring my presence. "The lithium-ion enhancement alone will change everything." Robert continued, his voice filled with the passion that had built their empire. Our anonymous benefactor understood the potential before anyone else in the industry. Marcus leaned back in his chair with practiced arrogance, his perfectly styled hair catching the chandelier's light. At 28, he possessed the kind of natural charisma that had always made him the center of attention. His tailored suit cost more than most people's monthly salary, and he wore success like an expensive cologne that announced his importance to everyone in the room. "Tomorrow night will be perfect," Marcus declared, swirling his wine with theatrical flair. "I've arranged everything to impress our most important investor. Greg, you might want to dress appropriately for once. First impressions matter in business circles you've obviously never experienced." I maintained my composure, though my pulse quickened with each dismissive comment. They had no idea that their freelance consultant son managed an $8 billion investment portfolio from his modest apartment downtown. My grandmother Eleanor's $2 million inheritance had become the foundation of an empire built on patient strategy and careful analysis of emerging technologies. The cryptocurrency investments in 2011 had multiplied exponentially. Early stakes in artificial intelligence startups, renewable energy companies, and biotechnology firms had transformed modest beginnings into staggering wealth. Every decision was methodical, every risk calculated with the precision my father had taught me during childhood science projects in his workshop. 3 years ago, during routine due diligence for a clean energy investment, I discovered Technova Solutions buried in a list of promising startups. My parents' company had developed revolutionary battery technology that could store solar and wind energy with unprecedented efficiency. The environmental impact alone justified significant investment, but discovering my family's connection created an emotional complexity I hadn't anticipated. I invested through layered shell companies and offshore trusts, becoming their largest shareholder while remaining completely anonymous. Sarah Chen, my attorney and investment representative, handled all communications with the company. To my parents, she was simply the investor's representative, a mysterious figure who guided strategic decisions through carefully worded recommendations and substantial financial backing. My quarterly reports tracked every aspect of Technova's growth. Board meeting minutes crossed my desk before my parents received their copies. Financial projections, patent applications, and strategic partnerships all required my approval through the complex legal structures protecting my identity. I had spent 3 years quietly steering the company toward unprecedented success while my family dismissed me as a failure. The irony cut deeper each time they celebrated achievements I had orchestrated from the shadows. Their gratitude toward their anonymous benefactor contrasted sharply with their disappointment in their own son. I watched them build an empire on my foundation while treating me like an unwelcome guest at their success. Marcus stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor with jarring finality. "Greg, since you'll be witnessing tomorrow's meeting, let me explain something about real business relationships. Our investor represents the pinnacle of strategic thinking and market insight. You might observe how successful people conduct themselves." He walked to the window overlooking their manicured backyard, his silhouette framed against the evening sky like a conqueror surveying his domain. "I've been working on something special for months now. Our family deserves recognition for building this company, and tomorrow night will prove that we've earned our place among industry leaders." My stomach clenched as Marcus's words took on an ominous undertone. Through my investment monitoring systems, I had detected irregularities in Technova's financial reports over the past 6 months. Expense accounts showed unusual patterns, and several vendor contracts contained inconsistencies that suggested deliberate manipulation. I had planned to investigate further after the quarterly audit, but Marcus's confident demeanor suddenly felt threatening rather than merely arrogant. "Actually, Greg," Marcus continued, turning from the window with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, "I've been documenting some interesting patterns in our security footage and email systems. Someone has been asking questions about proprietary information showing unusual interest in our strategic plans. Tomorrow's dinner will resolve several outstanding concerns about corporate loyalty and family trust." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees as Marcus's implication became clear. He wasn't just planning to humiliate me in front of our parents' most important investor. He was positioning me as a scapegoat for crimes I was beginning to suspect he had committed himself. Diana looked up from her place settings with sudden concern. "Marcus, what are you suggesting about your brother?" "I'm not suggesting anything, Mother. I'm simply stating facts that our security consultant has documented over the past several months. Some family members might have divided loyalties that compromise our business interests." Robert's engineering mind immediately focused on the logical implications. "If there's been industrial espionage, we need to involve federal authorities immediately. Technova's patents are worth hundreds of millions to competitors." "Don't worry, Dad. Everything will be resolved tomorrow night. Our investor deserves to know exactly who they can trust in this family." I realized with crystalline clarity that Marcus had spent months orchestrating an elaborate trap. He planned to frame me for his own crimes while simultaneously eliminating me from any future involvement in the family business. Tomorrow's dinner would serve as both courtroom and execution chamber with our parents' most respected business partner as judge and jury. The weight of $8 billion in investment suddenly felt meaningless compared to the betrayal unfolding before me. My own brother was preparing to destroy my reputation and relationship with our parents, using evidence of crimes he had committed himself. The anonymous investor he planned to impress with my humiliation was actually sitting at the same dinner table unrecognized and underestimated. Marcus returned to his seat with the satisfied expression of someone who believes victory is assured. Tomorrow night will change everything for this family. We'll finally know who deserves our trust and who has been working against our interests. I met his gaze directly, allowing a slight smile to play across my lips. "You're absolutely right, Marcus. Tomorrow night will definitely reveal the truth about loyalty and trust in this family." He interpreted my response as submission, nodding with approval at what he perceived as my acknowledgement of inevitable defeat. Our parents exchanged glances that mixed relief with disappointment, clearly believing their sons had reached some understanding about Marcus's superior position in the family hierarchy. None of them could imagine that their anonymous benefactor was already planning his own revelation, one that would expose not only my true identity, but also the full extent of my brother's betrayal. Tomorrow's dinner would indeed change everything, but not in the way any of them expected. Morning light filtered through the kitchen windows as I prepared coffee with mechanical precision, my mind racing through the implications of Marcus's veiled threats. The house felt different now, charged with undercurrents of deception and manipulation that I was only beginning to understand. Each familiar corner held shadows of my childhood when my parents' disappointment first taught me that love could be conditional on achievement and recognition. Diana bustled around the kitchen with nervous energy, checking her phone constantly for updates about tonight's dinner preparations. Her silver hair was pulled back in the same efficient bun she had worn during her university lectures, but stress lines around her eyes betrayed the pressure she felt to make tonight perfect. She had built her career on analyzing successful business strategies, yet remained blind to the strategic warfare unfolding between her own sons. "Greg, I hope you understand the significance of tonight's dinner," she said without looking up from her tablet where she was reviewing wine pairings and menu options. "This investor has transformed our company's prospects. Your father and I have worked 30 years to build Teknova, and their support has made dreams possible that we never imagined achievable. Through my encrypted financial monitoring systems, I accessed Teknova's accounts from my laptop in the living room, maintaining the appearance of casual freelance work while conducting deep forensic analysis. The irregularities I had noticed were far more extensive than initially suspected. Marcus had created an intricate network of fraudulent transactions that siphoned money through fake consulting contracts and inflated vendor agreements. $600,000 had disappeared over 8 months through a company called Strategic Solutions Consulting, which existed only as a post office box and a shell bank account. The consulting fees were approved through Marcus's marketing department for services that were never provided. Invoice dates corresponded perfectly with Marcus's personal expenses for luxury vacations, designer clothing, and high-end restaurant bills that far exceeded his legitimate salary. Nexus Industries. Teknova's primary competitor appeared repeatedly in Marcus's encrypted email communications. The correspondence revealed a systematic betrayal that extended far beyond simple embezzlement. Marcus had been selling proprietary technical specifications, strategic expansion plans, and confidential financial projections to their biggest rival for the past year. The information exchange was coordinated through private messaging apps and cryptocurrency payments that Marcus believed were untraceable. The true scope of his treachery became clear as I decoded his communications with Nexus executives. They were planning a hostile takeover attempt using inside information Marcus provided about Teknova's vulnerabilities, cash flow patterns, and key personnel dependencies. The attack would begin immediately after a major product announcement scheduled for next week when Teknova's stock price was expected to peak before artificial market manipulation drove it down to bargain levels. Sarah Chen called while I was documenting the evidence, her voice tight with urgency that immediately captured my attention. "Greg, we have a serious problem developing. Someone inside Teknova has been feeding information to external parties, and it's creating legal exposure that could trigger federal investigations. The Securities and Exchange Commission has been monitoring unusual trading patterns around Teknova stock, and they're asking questions about possible insider information." "How bad is the exposure?" I asked, stepping onto the back porch where my conversation couldn't be overheard by family members. "Bad enough that your investment could be frozen if they determine there's been securities fraud. We're talking about potential criminal charges for anyone connected to the information leaks. I need to know if you have any knowledge of internal security breaches or unauthorized disclosure of proprietary information." The irony was almost unbearable. My brother's crimes were threatening to destroy not only his parents' company, but also my own investment that had made their success possible. The legal complexities could freeze $8 billion in assets while federal investigators sorted through years of corporate communications and financial transactions. "I'll provide you with detailed information within 24 hours, I told Sarah, watching my father through the kitchen window as he practiced his presentation for tonight's investor meeting. "Make sure our legal exposure is completely protected, regardless of what develops with Teknova's internal investigation." Marcus emerged from his bedroom wearing a custom-tailored suit that cost more than most people earned in a month. his confidence radiating the dangerous energy of someone who believes their elaborate schemes are proceeding perfectly. He had styled his hair with extra care and selected a watch that proclaimed his success to anyone who understood luxury brand signaling. This was his moment of triumph, the culmination of months of patient manipulation and strategic positioning. "Good morning, family," he announced, straightening his platinum cufflinks with theatrical precision. "Tonight represents the pinnacle of our company's achievement and the beginning of a new chapter in the Sullivan family legacy." Robert looked up from his technical drawings with admiration that cut through me like a blade. My father's respect had always been reserved for Marcus's achievements, while my own accomplishments remained invisible and unacknowledged. The brilliant engineer who had taught me analytical thinking and strategic patience couldn't see that his favorite son was systematically destroying everything he had built. "Son, I want you to know how proud your mother and I are of the leadership you've shown in bringing this investment relationship to fruition," Robert said, setting down his coffee cup with the reverent care of someone handling sacred objects. "Your vision for expanding our market presence has exceeded our wildest expectations." Marcus accepted the praise with practiced humility, but I caught the flash of calculation in his eyes as he processed how tonight's events would cement his position as the family's undisputed success story. He planned to use my disgrace as the final evidence of his superiority, eliminating any future competition for their parents' approval and business inheritance. "Actually, Dad, tonight's dinner will resolve some lingering concerns about family loyalty and business security." Marcus said, his tone carrying subtle warning that made Diana look up from her planning with sudden attention. "Our investor deserves complete transparency about internal dynamics that might affect their continued confidence in Technova's leadership." "What kind of concerns?" Diana asked, her academic instincts immediately focusing on the underlying implications of Marcus's carefully chosen words. "Nothing that can't be addressed through proper documentation and clear communication," Marcus replied with a smile that conveyed reassurance while his eyes remained cold and calculating. "Let's just say that some family members haven't fully understood the importance of maintaining confidentiality about our strategic operations." My phone buzzed with an encrypted message from my security consultant alerting me to suspicious activity around Technova's computer systems. Someone had been accessing employee email accounts and copying files related to intellectual property and financial records. The digital forensics suggested systematic information gathering rather than random corporate espionage, indicating that Marcus's betrayal extended beyond simple theft into comprehensive data mining for competitive advantage. The breakfast table conversation continued around me as I processed the magnitude of my brother's crimes and the precision of his trap. He had spent months documenting evidence that would implicate me in industrial espionage, while simultaneously committing those exact crimes himself. Tonight's dinner was designed to present our parents' most important investor, with proof of my disloyalty establishing Marcus as the family's only trustworthy business leader. But Marcus had made one crucial miscalculation in his elaborate scheme. He assumed that exposing my supposed crimes would strengthen his position with their anonymous investor, not realizing that the investor was actually his intended victim. His plan to frame me for betraying the company would instead reveal his own systematic theft and corporate espionage to the very person he was trying to impress. The morning sun climbed higher as I finished documenting Marcus's crimes and began preparing comprehensive evidence packages for law enforcement agencies. Tonight's dinner would indeed expose the truth about family loyalty and business trust, but the revelation would destroy the wrong brother's future and vindicate the son who had been dismissed as a failure. Marcus's confidence would become his downfall, and his parents' disappointment would transform into gratitude for the son who had quietly protected their life's work while enduring years of undeserved criticism and neglect. Justice would be served with the same precision Marcus had used to construct his web of deception, turning his own weapons against him with devastating effectiveness. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the Sullivan family home, as Diana transformed their dining room into what she hoped would impress the most important business contact of her husband's career. She moved with the focused intensity of a conductor preparing for a symphony performance, adjusting crystal stemware and repositioning floral arrangements with millimeter precision. Her hands trembled slightly as she polished silver serving pieces that hadn't been used since their anniversary celebration 3 years ago. "Robert, does the lighting look sophisticated enough?" She called toward the kitchen, where my father was reviewing technical presentations on his laptop. "I want everything to convey success and stability. This investor has already shown such faith in our company's potential." My father emerged from the kitchen carrying printed charts and graphs, his engineering mind approaching the dinner with the same methodical preparation he applied to product development. His best suit hung ready in their bedroom closet, pressed and waiting for an evening he considered pivotal to Technova's future. The pride in his eyes reflected genuine gratitude toward someone he believed had recognized his life's work and made its full realization possible. "Diana, our achievements speak for themselves," Robert assured her, though his own nervous energy betrayed the pressure he felt to prove worthy of continued investment. "Whoever this person is, they understood our vision when no one else in the industry recognized the potential of sustainable energy storage solutions." I watched my parents' frantic preparations from the living room while simultaneously coordinating with law enforcement agencies through encrypted communications. FBI financial crimes investigators were building cases against Nexus Industries executives based on evidence I had provided about corporate espionage and securities manipulation. The timing of tonight's revelations would need perfect coordination to protect both Technova and innocent employees from legal fallout. Marcus descended the staircase with calculated dramatic timing, having spent 2 hours perfecting his appearance for what he considered his moment of ultimate triumph. His Italian leather shoes clicked against the hardwood floors with military precision as he surveyed the dinner preparations like a general inspecting troops before battle. Every detail of his presentation had been rehearsed to convey authority, success, and family leadership that would impress their mysterious benefactor. Mother-Father tonight represents the culmination of strategic planning that extends far beyond simple business relationships. Marcus announced, adjusting his silk tie with the confidence of someone who believes victory is assured. "Our family's future depends on demonstrating absolute unity and clear leadership to someone whose continued support determines Technova's trajectory." His words carried underlying threats that my parents interpreted as enthusiasm, while I recognized them as final positioning for my downfall. Marcus had spent the afternoon reviewing security footage and email communications that he believed documented my supposed corporate espionage. His evidence would be presented tonight as proof of my disloyalty, establishing him as the family's only trustworthy representative, worthy of their investors' confidence. My phone buzzed with an update from my private security team, alerting me that Thomas Hartwell, CEO of Nexus Industries, had been arrested by federal agents for securities fraud, unrelated to his schemes against Technova. The hostile takeover attempt had collapsed instantly when investigators froze Nexus corporate accounts and seized communication records. Marcus remained unaware that his primary accomplice was now in federal custody, still expecting Hartwell to arrive for dinner as the mysterious, anonymous investor. Sarah Chen called with urgent legal updates that required immediate attention. "Greg, the FBI investigation into Nexus Industries has inadvertently uncovered financial irregularities at Technova that suggest internal fraud. Federal agents want to interview you as an interested party in the company, though they don't understand your true relationship to the business. We need to coordinate your revelation carefully to avoid triggering additional securities investigations. How much time do we have before federal involvement becomes mandatory?" I asked, stepping outside where my conversation couldn't be monitored by family members. 24 hours maximum. After that, your investment status becomes part of an active federal investigation, and maintaining anonymity could be interpreted as obstruction of justice. Tonight's revelation protects you legally while exposing the actual criminals. The weight of legal deadlines combined with family dynamics created pressure that would have crushed someone without my years of strategic patience and careful planning. Every decision tonight would determine not only my relationship with my parents, but also the survival of their company and the protection of innocent employees whose livelihoods depended on Technova's continued success. I returned to the house to find Marcus coaching our parents on appropriate conversation topics for dinner with their honored guest. His manipulation extended beyond simple preparation into psychological conditioning designed to present him as the family's natural spokesperson and business leader. Every suggested talking point reinforced his importance while subtly undermining any potential positive comments about my character or capabilities. Remember, we want to emphasize stable leadership and unified vision. Marcus instructed, pacing around the dining room like a campaign manager preparing candidates for crucial debates. Our investor needs confidence that Technova represents sound judgment and reliable partnership. Some family members have shown questionable decision-making that might concern someone considering continued substantial investment. Diana nodded attentively, her academic background making her receptive to structured presentation strategies. What specific examples should we emphasize about company stability and leadership effectiveness? Focus on documented achievements, measurable results, and demonstrated loyalty to company interests. Marcus replied, his words carrying double meanings that positioned him favorably while casting shadows on my supposed reliability. Our investor will appreciate concrete evidence of who can be trusted with important business responsibilities. The doorbell's installation had been tested 3 times to ensure proper functioning when their honored guest arrived. Security cameras captured multiple angles of the front entrance, ostensibly for safety, but actually to record my reaction when Marcus's trap was sprung. Every technical detail had been arranged to document what he believed would be my humiliation and his vindication as the family's worthy heir. My laptop displayed real-time monitoring of Technova's financial systems, employee communications, and security protocols that I had implemented to protect the company from external threats. The irony of using my own protective measures to document my brother's crimes created bitter satisfaction that justice would be served through his own methods turned against him. Federal agents were positioned discreetly around the neighborhood, ready to intervene if Marcus's exposure triggered violent reactions or attempts to destroy evidence. My security consultant had coordinated with law enforcement to ensure that tonight's revelations proceeded safely while preserving all documentation needed for criminal prosecution and civil recovery actions. 6:30 approached with mechanical inevitability as my parents completed their final preparations for an evening they expected to secure Technova's future and celebrate their family's achievements. Marcus checked his appearance one last time, radiating the dangerous confidence of someone who believes they have orchestrated perfect revenge against a lifetime of perceived slights and jealousy. Greg, you might want to prepare yourself for some uncomfortable truths tonight, Marcus said, straightening his jacket with the satisfied expression of someone delivering a final warning to their victim. Family loyalty means protecting the people who have built something meaningful from those who might threaten it through selfishness or poor judgment. I met his gaze with calm composure that he interpreted as resignation, but actually reflected the deep satisfaction of someone who had turned their opponent's weapons against them with devastating precision. You're absolutely right, Marcus. Tonight will definitely reveal the truth about family loyalty and who deserves our parents' trust and respect. 7 o'clock approached with the inexorable timing of fate, as 3 generations of Sullivan family history prepared to collide with truth, justice, and consequences that none of them could imagine. Marcus's confident smile would soon transform into horror, as his elaborate trap revealed his own crimes to the very person he had tried to frame and destroy. The grandfather clock in the Sullivan family foyer chimed 6 times as evening shadows began claiming the carefully manicured landscape outside their suburban home. Diana made final adjustments to her appearance, selecting jewelry that conveyed understated elegance while checking her reflection in the hallway mirror with the critical eye of someone whose academic career had taught her the importance of professional presentation. Her hands smoothed imaginary wrinkles from her navy blue dress selected specifically to project authority and sophistication. Robert emerged from his study carrying a leather portfolio containing technical specifications and financial projections that he hoped would demonstrate Technova's continued innovation potential to their most important benefactor. His engineering background had taught him to prepare for every possible question about battery technology, energy storage efficiency, and sustainable manufacturing processes that might arise during dinner conversation. "Son, I want to thank you personally for orchestrating this meeting," Robert said to Marcus, his voice heavy with paternal pride that cut through me like a surgical blade. "Your business development instincts have brought opportunities that exceeded our wildest projections when we started this company in our garage 20 years ago." Marcus accepted the gratitude with practiced humility, while his eyes gleamed with anticipation for the evening's planned revelations. He had positioned tonight's dinner as his personal achievement in building relationships with strategic investors, taking credit for success that had actually originated from my anonymous financial backing and guidance through Sarah Chen's careful communications. Tonight represents years of careful relationship building and strategic positioning. Marcus replied, adjusting his platinum cufflinks with the theatrical precision of an actor preparing for a crucial performance. "Our family deserves recognition for innovation and dedication, and this investor will see exactly who has contributed meaningful value to Technova's success." My secure laptop displayed final updates from federal law enforcement agencies as they completed investigations into Nexus Industries and prepared arrest warrants for corporate espionage charges. Thomas Hartwell's detention had triggered comprehensive examination of his company's illegal activities, including the systematic theft of proprietary information from multiple technology firms through corrupt internal sources. The evidence packages I had compiled over the past 24 hours documented Marcus's complete betrayal with forensic precision. Bank records traced every fraudulent payment communication logs revealed detailed coordination with Nexus executives, and digital forensics identified exactly when proprietary Technova files were copied and transmitted to competitors. Federal prosecutors considered the case virtually guaranteed for successful conviction on multiple felony charges. Sarah Chen sent final legal updates through encrypted messaging systems that protected our communications from potential surveillance or subpoena. "Greg, your revelation tonight is legally protected as whistleblower testimony that assists federal law enforcement in prosecuting corporate crimes. The timing actually strengthens your position while exposing Marcus's criminal activities to appropriate authorities." My phone displayed discreet messages from security personnel positioned around the neighborhood, ensuring that Marcus's potential violent reaction to exposure would be contained immediately. Professional security consultants had identified multiple escape routes and intervention points while maintaining complete invisibility to prevent any family members from detecting their presence. The irony of protecting my parents from their own son created emotional complexity that years of strategic thinking hadn't prepared me to navigate. My love for Robert and Diana remained unconditional, despite their favoritism toward Marcus, but tonight's revelations would force them to confront uncomfortable truths about their judgment and parenting decisions that had created the family dynamics, enabling Marcus's sense of entitlement and superiority. Diana's nervous energy intensified as 7 o'clock approached her academic perfectionism, demanding flawless execution of an evening she considered crucial to their family's continued prosperity. She had researched wine pairings, menu composition, and conversation topics with the same thoroughness she once applied to preparing university lectures on strategic business management. "I want everything perfect for someone who has shown such faith in our company's potential," Diana said, making final adjustments to crystal stemware that sparkled under the dining room chandelier. This investor recognized our vision when established firms dismissed sustainable energy storage as commercially impractical. Marcus moved through the house with predatory confidence, checking sightlines and camera angles to ensure optimal documentation of my supposed humiliation when his trap was revealed. His months of patient manipulation had created what he believed was an inescapable scenario where his evidence of my corporate espionage would destroy my relationship with our parents while establishing him as their only trustworthy child, worthy of business inheritance. Mother, father, prepare yourselves for some surprising revelations tonight. Marcus announced, his voice carrying undertones of threat disguised as protective concern. Family loyalty sometimes requires making difficult decisions about who deserves our trust and who has been working against our interests. My years of hiding substantial achievement had taught me patience and strategic thinking that Marcus's inherited confidence couldn't match. His elaborate schemes depended on surprise and misdirection, while my approach relied on comprehensive preparation and overwhelming evidence that left no room for denial or manipulation. Tonight's confrontation would demonstrate the difference between inherited privilege and earned wisdom. 6:45 arrived with mechanical precision as my parents completed their emotional preparation for meeting someone they considered their company's salvation and their family's most important business contact. Neither could imagine that their honored guest was already sitting in their living room dismissed as a failure, while secretly protecting everything they had built from external threats and internal betrayal. Federal agents confirmed their readiness to intervene when Marcus's criminal activities were exposed to Technova leadership. The coordination would protect company assets, employee welfare, and intellectual property, while ensuring that justice was served with appropriate legal authority rather than family confrontation alone. Marcus's confidence reached its peak as he surveyed the perfectly arranged dinner setting and considered his parents' grateful expressions toward their mysterious benefactor. His satisfaction reflected months of careful planning that he believed guaranteed my complete humiliation and his elevation to undisputed leadership of the family business empire. Greg, I hope you're prepared to learn something about real business relationships tonight, Marcus said with the patronizing tone of someone delivering final warnings to their victim. Success requires vision, commitment, and absolute loyalty to family interests. Some people understand these principles while others consistently demonstrate poor judgment that threatens everything we've built. I maintained calm composure while internally calculating the precise moment when Marcus's trap would spring shut on himself rather than his intended victim. His confidence would transform into terror as $8 billion in anonymous investment revealed itself as protection rather than external validation, and his crimes would be exposed to the very person he had tried to frame and destroy. 7 o'clock approached with inevitable timing as 3 generations of family history prepared to collide with truth, justice, and consequences that would reshape everything they believed about success, loyalty, and the son they had dismissed as unworthy of their respect and recognition. The anonymous investor's identity would shock them, but Marcus's betrayal would devastate them in ways that would require years to fully heal and understand. The doorbell's melodic chimes echoed through the Sullivan family home at exactly 7 o'clock, causing Diana to straighten her dress one final time, while Robert gathered his presentation materials with nervous enthusiasm. The sound represented the culmination of months of anticipation and careful preparation for meeting the mysterious investor who had transformed Technova's prospects beyond their most ambitious projections. Marcus stood up from the dining room table with theatrical precision, his Italian leather shoes clicking against the hardwood floor as he moved toward the front entrance with the confident stride of someone orchestrating his moment of ultimate triumph. His hand rested on the brass doorknob while he turned back toward his parents with a smile that mixed satisfaction with barely contained anticipation for the revelation he believed would destroy his brother's standing forever. Mother, father, prepare to meet the person whose vision and financial backing has made our success possible. Marcus announced, his voice carrying undertones of threat disguised as family pride. "Tonight you'll understand exactly who deserves your trust and who has been working against our family's interests." I remained seated in the leather armchair near the fireplace, my calm composure masking the rapid calculations occurring as 3 years of anonymous investment and careful corporate guidance approached their moment of revelation. The weight of $8 billion in concealed financial backing suddenly felt insignificant compared to the emotional complexity of exposing my true relationship to the company that had defined my parents' entire professional lives. Marcus turned the doorknob with practiced authority, expecting to greet Thomas Hartwell and begin the elaborate presentation of evidence designed to frame me for corporate espionage, while positioning himself as the family's only trustworthy business leader. Instead, he found my driver and security detail standing on the front porch, their professional bearing and expensive suits indicating important business connections, without revealing their actual relationship to the evening's honored guest. "Good evening, sir," my driver said with respectful professionalism. "We're here to escort the investor to this meeting. However, it appears there may have been some confusion about the arrangements." Marcus's confident expression faltered as he processed the unexpected development, his mind racing to understand why Thomas Hartwell wasn't standing on their doorstep, ready to validate months of careful manipulation and strategic positioning. The elaborate trap he had constructed required the presence of their anonymous benefactor to witness my supposed disgrace and his vindication as the family's worthy heir. There must be some mistake. Marcus said, his voice betraying the first traces of uncertainty as his perfect plan encountered unexpected complications. "We're expecting a very important investor for dinner tonight. Where is your passenger?" My security detail maintained professional silence while I stood up from my chair with deliberate calm, each movement calculated to maximize the psychological impact of the revelation that would shatter Marcus's assumptions about power, success, and family dynamics. 20 years of dismissal and disappointment had prepared me for this moment when truth would triumph over perception, and justice would be served with devastating precision. "The investor is already here." "Marcus?" I said quietly, my words carrying across the dining room like a thunderclap that instantly commanded everyone's attention. "It's me." The silence that followed stretched across several heartbeats as my parents processed information that contradicted everything they believed about their son's relative achievements and business capabilities. Diana's hand moved to her throat in an unconscious gesture of shock, while Robert's engineering mind struggled to reconcile the logical impossibility of their dismissed son being their company's most important financial backer. Marcus's face transformed through rapid sequence of emotions as the implications cascaded through his consciousness. Confusion gave way to disbelief, then growing horror as he realized that his elaborate scheme to frame me for corporate espionage had instead positioned him to confess his own crimes to his primary victim. The anonymous investor he had planned to impress with my humiliation was actually the person he had systematically betrayed and stolen from for months. "That's impossible," Marcus whispered, his voice barely audible as his confident facade cracked under the weight of revealed truth. "You're just a failed consultant who can't even afford decent clothes or a reliable car." I reached into my leather briefcase and withdrew comprehensive documentation of my investment history, cryptocurrency portfolio growth, and strategic guidance provided to Technova through shell companies and offshore trusts. Each page represented months of careful analysis and financial backing that had made their current success possible, while remaining completely invisible to the family that had dismissed me as inadequate. 3 years ago, I invested $4 billion in sustainable energy companies after analyzing market trends and technological innovations. I explained with the calm authority of someone presenting documented facts rather than making emotional appeals. Technova's battery storage technology represented the most promising advancement in renewable energy infrastructure, so I became your largest shareholder through Meridian Capital Holdings, and associated investment vehicles. Robert's engineering background enabled him to process technical details more quickly than emotional implications. His analytical mind focusing on mathematical calculations that could verify or disprove claims that challenged fundamental assumptions about his family's financial structure and business relationships. $4 billion requires institutional backing or inherited wealth far beyond anything our family has ever possessed. Robert said carefully, his voice reflecting genuine confusion rather than disbelief. Greg, where could you possibly have acquired that kind of investment capital? Grandmother Eleanor's inheritance provided the initial $2 million. I continued presenting bank statements and investment records that documented every transaction from cryptocurrency purchases in 2011 through current portfolio valuations exceeding $8 billion. Patient strategic investing in emerging technologies and careful analysis of market trends have compound growth over 13 years. Diana's academic background in business strategy helped her understand the mathematical progression more quickly than the emotional ramifications her professor's training, enabling objective analysis of evidence, even when it contradicted years of assumptions about her children's relative capabilities and achievements. The anonymous investor communications always came through Sarah Chen, Diana said slowly, her memory reconstructing 3 years of strategic guidance and financial backing that had shaped every major business decision. She presented recommendations with detailed market analysis and technological projections that proved consistently accurate. Sarah Chen is my attorney and investment representative. I confirmed watching my parents' expressions transform as they began connecting years of fortunate coincidences and lucky breaks with systematic intervention from their dismissed son. Every strategic direction, every major decision, every crisis that was mysteriously resolved with perfect timing, that was me protecting and guiding the company you built. Marcus's desperate mind seized on the only explanation that could preserve his position while discrediting evidence that threatened to expose his crimes. His months of careful manipulation had created elaborate documentation of my supposed corporate espionage, and he launched into accusations with the frantic energy of someone whose entire world view was collapsing around him. This is exactly what I've been investigating. Marcus shouted, his composure completely abandoned as panic overwhelmed strategic thinking. Greg has been stealing our proprietary information and manipulating our business decisions for years. The security footage shows him accessing company files and copying strategic documents. His accusations grew increasingly wild as terror replaced confidence, each claim revealing deeper levels of his own guilt, while attempting to frame me for crimes he had committed himself. The elaborate trap he had constructed was closing around him with mechanical precision, turning his own weapons against him through the perfect irony of justice served with his own methods. Marcus, those security recordings document your theft of company information. I replied calmly, presenting digital forensics evidence that traced every fraudulent transaction and illegal communication to his personal devices and accounts. $600,000 stolen through Strategic Solutions Consulting proprietary technical specifications sold to Nexus Industries, and systematic sabotage of your parents' life work for personal profit. Federal agents appeared at the front door, their presence coordinated through my security consultant to provide appropriate law enforcement authority for criminal charges that required immediate action. The timing had been calculated to protect my parents from extended legal exposure, while ensuring that Marcus's crimes were prosecuted with full federal jurisdiction. Diana's hand covered her mouth as she processed the magnitude of betrayal that had been hidden beneath Marcus's confident exterior and manipulative charm. Her son had systematically stolen from the company she had helped build while positioning himself as its most loyal defender, using family trust as cover for criminal activities that could have destroyed everything they had worked to achieve. Robert's face reflected the emotional devastation of someone discovering that his favorite son had betrayed not only his parents' trust, but also the technological innovations that represented his life's work and professional legacy. The pride he had expressed in Marcus's business development achievements transformed into horror as he realized those accomplishments were actually systematic theft disguised as family loyalty. Marcus's final desperate gambit involved accusing me of elaborate manipulation and emotional abuse, claiming that my secret investment represented years of psychological warfare designed to control and humiliate the family that had rightfully dismissed me as inadequate. His accusations became increasingly incoherent as federal agents read him his rights and began documenting evidence that would support multiple felony charges. The dining room that had been prepared for celebration became a crime scene, as law enforcement officers secured financial records, communication devices, and documentary evidence that would prosecute corporate espionage, securities fraud, and systematic theft from family members who had trusted him with their business and their future. Justice had been served with perfect precision, using Marcus's own trap against him, while revealing truth that would transform family relationships and corporate governance in ways that would require years to fully understand and heal. The federal agents moved through the Sullivan family home with professional efficiency, securing evidence while maintaining respectful consideration for my parents' emotional shock and bewilderment. Special Agent Catherine Morrison, a veteran financial crimes investigator, explained the charges against Marcus with clinical precision that emphasized legal procedures while acknowledging the family trauma unfolding around criminal prosecution of their son. Mr. Marcus Sullivan, you're under arrest for wire fraud, securities violations, corporate espionage, and conspiracy to commit theft of proprietary information, Agent Morrison announced while handcuffs clicked around Marcus's wrists with metallic finality. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in federal court proceedings. Marcus's desperate protests grew increasingly incoherent as the reality of criminal consequences replaced his fantasy of orchestrated revenge and family dominance. His expensive suit suddenly looked like costume jewelry on someone whose pretensions had been stripped away by exposure to actual law enforcement authority and documented evidence of systematic betrayal. This is all fabricated evidence planted by Greg to frame me, Marcus shouted, his voice cracking with panic as federal agents cataloged financial records, communication devices, and physical evidence that would support felony convictions. He's been manipulating our family for years, stealing our information, and sabotaging our business relationships. Agent Morrison's expression remained professionally neutral while she processed Marcus's accusations against the documented timeline of criminal activities that federal investigators had traced through multiple banking systems, encrypted communications, and corporate security footage. The evidence against him was overwhelming and consistent across numerous independent sources. Mr. Marcus Sullivan, our investigation has documented systematic theft of corporate assets, unauthorized disclosure of proprietary information to competitors, and manipulation of financial systems for personal enrichment. Agent Morrison replied with calm authority. These charges are supported by bank records, communication intercepts, and testimony from corporate witnesses who can verify the timeline of illegal activities. Diana collapsed into her dining room chair with the stunned expression of someone whose fundamental understanding of reality had been shattered by revelations that challenged everything she believed about her children's character and capabilities. Her academic training in business analysis couldn't process the emotional complexity of discovering that her favored son was a criminal, while her dismissed son was their family's secret protector and benefactor. I don't understand how this happened, Diana whispered, her voice barely audible as tears began forming in her eyes. Marcus was always so confident, so successful in everything he attempted. How could we have been so completely wrong about both of our sons? Robert's engineering mind struggled to reconcile mathematical evidence with emotional devastation. His analytical approach to problem-solving overwhelmed by personal betrayal that defied logical explanation. The son he had mentored and celebrated had systematically stolen from the company that represented his life's work and professional legacy. The financial records are indisputable, Robert said quietly, reviewing documentation that Agent Morrison had provided, showing the scope of Marcus's theft and corporate espionage. $600,000 stolen through fraudulent consulting contracts, proprietary specifications sold to our primary competitor, and strategic information used to facilitate hostile takeover attempts. Federal prosecutors had prepared comprehensive criminal charges that would result in decades of prison time if Marcus was convicted on all counts. The evidence included bank records, encrypted communications witness testimony, and digital forensics that traced every illegal transaction to his personal devices and accounts. His criminal enterprise had been documented with forensic precision that left no reasonable doubt about guilt or intent. "Mr. Greg Sullivan," Agent Morrison said, turning her attention to me with respectful acknowledgement of my cooperation with federal law enforcement. "Your assistance in documenting these crimes has been invaluable to our investigation. The evidence you provided will ensure appropriate prosecution and recovery of stolen assets." Sarah Chen arrived at the house within 30 minutes of my call, accompanied by additional attorneys who specialized in corporate fraud recovery and family business disputes. The legal complexity of protecting Teknova from ongoing federal investigation while prosecuting Marcus's crimes required coordinated expertise across multiple areas of commercial and criminal law. "Greg, your disclosure tonight protects both your investment and your family's company from extended legal exposure," Sarah explained while reviewing federal charging documents. Marcus's criminal activities created potential securities violations that could have frozen company assets, but your cooperation eliminates those concerns. Teknova's employees would learn about Marcus's arrest through carefully managed communications that emphasized company stability and continued operations under legitimate leadership. My transition from anonymous investor to active corporate governance would be presented as planned succession rather than crisis management, protecting employee confidence and customer relationships. The fraudulent money Marcus had stolen would be recovered through federal asset forfeiture procedures that traced every dollar through multiple banking systems and offshore accounts. His luxury possessions, expensive vehicles, and high-end lifestyle accessories would be liquidated to provide restitution to Teknova and its affected stakeholders. Nexus Industries faced comprehensive federal investigation that would likely result in corporate dissolution and criminal prosecution of executive leadership who had participated in systematic industrial espionage. The company's illegal activities extended far beyond their schemes against Teknova, involving theft of proprietary information from dozens of technology firms across multiple industries. The hostile takeover attempt collapsed when Thomas Hartwell was arrested. Agent Morrison explained, providing updates on related federal investigations. Nexus Industries' stock price has fallen 90%, and their corporate assets have been frozen pending criminal prosecution of their leadership team. My parents faced the devastating task of rebuilding family relationships based on truth, rather than assumptions about their children's relative worth and capabilities. 3 decades of favoritism toward Marcus while dismissing my achievements had created emotional damage that would require professional counseling and genuine commitment to change fundamental patterns of family interaction. Diana's academic expertise in business psychology would actually assist their healing process, providing analytical frameworks for understanding how family dynamics had enabled Marcus's sense of entitlement while undermining my confidence and belonging. Her professional training could be redirected toward repairing personal relationships with the same thoroughness she had applied to corporate consulting. Robert's engineering background would help him appreciate the strategic thinking and patient analysis that had built my investment portfolio while protecting their company from external threats. His respect for systematic problem-solving and long-term planning would eventually recognize the characteristics he had always valued, just expressed through different methods than he had expected. I need you both to understand that my investment in Teknova was never about control or manipulation. I explained to my parents while federal agents completed their evidence collection. I believed in the technology you developed and wanted to help make your vision successful without taking credit or interfering with your leadership. The company that had been built on their innovation and my financial backing would continue growing under transparent governance structures that prevented future fraud, while maximizing technological impact on sustainable energy infrastructure. Teknova's patents would revolutionize renewable energy storage across multiple industries, creating positive environmental benefits that extended far beyond corporate profit. Marcus would serve approximately 12 years in federal prison if convicted on all charges, with additional restitution requirements that would extend financial consequences for decades beyond his release. His betrayal had cost him everything: family relationships, professional credibility, personal freedom, and any hope of inheriting the business empire he had tried to steal through criminal manipulation. Justice had been served with mathematical precision, using Marcus's own methods against him, while revealing truth that would transform family dynamics and corporate governance in ways that honored both innovation and integrity. 6 months after that transformative dinner, I stood in the conference room of Teknova Solutions, watching my father present breakthrough battery technology to automotive executives who would integrate our innovations into electric vehicle platforms serving millions of consumers worldwide. The morning sunshine streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows illuminated technical diagrams that represented years of engineering excellence, finally receiving recognition and implementation on a massive scale. Diana had returned to her natural element as Chief Operating Officer, applying her business strategy expertise to corporate governance, while rebuilding personal relationships with the precision she once brought to university research. Her silver hair was styled differently now, reflecting confidence that came from understanding rather than pretension, and her interactions with employees demonstrated genuine warmth that had replaced academic formality. Greg, the quarterly projections show sustainable growth patterns that exceed our most optimistic estimates. Diana reported during our weekly family business meeting, her voice carrying pride earned through legitimate achievement rather than inherited expectation. Your strategic guidance has created market positioning that competitors cannot replicate through acquisition or imitation. Teknova had expanded from battery storage into comprehensive renewable energy infrastructure, developing solar panel efficiency improvements and wind turbine optimization systems that revolutionized sustainable power generation across residential and commercial applications. Our patents were licensed globally, creating revenue streams that funded research and development while maintaining technological leadership in environmental innovation. Robert's engineering genius flourished under transparent corporate governance that encouraged innovation, while preventing the kind of internal sabotage that had nearly destroyed everything he had built. His workshop occupied an entire floor of our expanded facility, equipped with prototype manufacturing equipment and testing systems that enabled rapid development of breakthrough technologies. Son, I owe you an apology that encompasses decades of misunderstanding and misplaced priorities. Robert said during one of our private conversations in his laboratory, his weathered hands holding technical drawings that represented collaboration between his engineering vision and my strategic implementation. Your patience and wisdom protected our family's work when my favoritism and poor judgment created vulnerabilities that could have destroyed everything. The federal prosecution of Marcus had concluded with guilty verdicts on all charges, resulting in a 14-year prison sentence and comprehensive restitution requirements that would extend financial consequences far beyond his eventual release. His criminal enterprise had been documented with forensic precision that left no possibility of successful appeal or reduced sentencing based on cooperation agreements. Marcus's time in federal prison had provided opportunity for reflection and personal development that his previous lifestyle of inherited privilege had never required. His letters from correctional facilities demonstrated growing understanding of the damage his choices had caused to family members who had trusted and loved him, despite his systematic betrayal of that trust and affection. Greg, I know you're reading this even though you haven't responded to my previous letters. His most recent communication began handwritten in the careful script of someone with unlimited time for contemplation. Prison has given me perspective on choices I made and consequences I never considered when my jealousy and entitlement controlled my judgment and behavior. I had not yet decided whether to visit Marcus in prison or respond to his correspondence, choosing instead to focus on positive family reconstruction and corporate growth, rather than engaging with remorse that might be genuine or might represent continued manipulation. Time would eventually reveal whether his apparent transformation reflected authentic change or strategic positioning for future advantage. Technova's employee ownership program had distributed company stock to workers whose dedication and innovation contributed to technological breakthroughs that benefited society while generating sustainable profit margins. Manufacturing technicians, research scientists, administrative staff, and facility management personnel all participated in corporate success through equity participation that aligned personal achievement with company performance. This profit-sharing model demonstrates that ethical capitalism can create prosperity while maintaining social responsibility. I explained during a business school presentation where students analyzed Technova's governance structure as a case study in stakeholder-focused management. Success measured solely by shareholder returns ignores the human capital and community resources that make achievement possible. My relationship with Jessica Patterson had developed gradually through shared environmental advocacy work and genuine appreciation for character-based attraction rather than wealth-focused social positioning. Her doctorate in environmental science complemented my business expertise, creating partnership dynamics that enhanced both professional effectiveness and personal fulfillment, without the complications of inherited family dysfunction. What attracts me most about your approach to business leadership is the emphasis on long-term thinking and systematic problem-solving, Jessica observed during one of our evening walks through the urban park where we had first met during a renewable energy conference. Your success demonstrates that patience and strategic analysis create more sustainable results than aggressive short-term manipulation. The Eleanor Sullivan Foundation for Educational Excellence had distributed over $50 million in scholarships to students from low-income families who demonstrated academic potential in science technology, engineering and mathematics programs at universities nationwide. The foundation honored my grandmother's commitment to education while creating opportunities for young people whose talents might otherwise remain undeveloped due to financial constraints. Community leadership responsibilities had expanded beyond corporate governance into regional economic development initiatives that attracted sustainable technology companies to our metropolitan area. The jobs created through renewable energy innovation provided career opportunities for local residents while reducing environmental impact through efficient transportation and reduced industrial pollution. Your investment strategy has transformed our regional economy from dependence on declining manufacturing into leadership in emerging technologies, the mayor acknowledged during a Chamber of Commerce awards ceremony where Technova received recognition for corporate citizenship and environmental stewardship. The ripple effects of ethical business practices extend far beyond immediate profit margins. Professional recognition had included invitations to congressional hearings on sustainable energy policy advisory positions, with environmental protection agencies and speaking engagements at international conferences where business leaders discuss stakeholder-focused management approaches that balance profit generation with social responsibility and environmental protection. Diana's transformation into a supportive rather than critical parent had required professional counseling and genuine commitment to understanding how family dynamics had created competitive rather than collaborative relationships between her sons. Her academic expertise in organizational psychology provided analytical frameworks for personal growth that complemented emotional healing through honest communication and behavioral change. I realize now that my favoritism toward Marcus was based on superficial characteristics, like charisma and confidence, rather than deeper qualities like integrity and wisdom. Diana admitted during one of our family therapy sessions, "My academic training should have taught me to analyze evidence rather than accept surface presentations, but my emotional attachments overrode my analytical judgment." Robert's engineering background had eventually recognized that my strategic thinking and patient analysis reflected the same systematic problem-solving approaches he had always valued, just applied to financial markets and corporate governance rather than technical development and manufacturing optimization. His respect for methodical processes and long-term planning created foundation for rebuilt father-son relationships based on shared values and complementary expertise. Technova's impact on renewable energy infrastructure had expanded internationally through licensing agreements and joint ventures that accelerated global transition away from fossil fuel dependence toward sustainable power generation and storage systems. Our technologies were implemented in developing nations where reliable electricity access created economic opportunities and improved quality of life for millions of people worldwide. The social impact measurements show that renewable energy access has increased educational opportunities, healthcare delivery, and economic development in communities that previously lacked reliable electrical infrastructure. Our Chief Technology Officer reported during quarterly board meetings where financial performance was evaluated alongside environmental and social benefit calculations. My personal philosophy had evolved to emphasize quiet strength over dramatic gestures, strategic patience over immediate gratification, and collaborative achievement over competitive domination. The years of hiding substantial accomplishments while enduring family criticism had taught resilience and humility that enhanced leadership effectiveness while maintaining perspective on what truly matters in life. The dining room where our story began now hosted weekly family meetings where all members contributed equally to discussions about business strategy, family relationships, and community responsibilities. The crystal stemware and formal place settings remained unchanged, but the dynamics around that table reflected mutual respect and collaborative decision-making rather than favoritism and competitive positioning. Greg, your example has taught me that real success requires character foundations that can withstand external pressure and criticism. Diana reflected during one of our family dinners, her words carrying gratitude earned through understanding rather than inherited expectation. Your patience and wisdom during years of undeserved dismissal demonstrated strength that I failed to recognize or appreciate. Technova's future planning included expansion into energy storage systems for entire cities, battery technology for aerospace applications, and power generation solutions for remote locations where traditional electrical infrastructure was impractical or environmentally damaging. Our research and development pipeline extended decades into the future, ensuring continued innovation and technological leadership. The lessons learned through family betrayal and corporate crime had strengthened governance structures and internal controls that prevented future fraud while maintaining operational flexibility for innovation and growth. Employee training programs emphasized ethical decision-making alongside technical competence, creating organizational culture that valued integrity as highly as achievement and profitability. The transformation of this family and this company demonstrates that authentic success requires alignment between personal values and professional behavior. I concluded during a university commencement address where graduating seniors received advice about entering careers in technology and business leadership. Character represents the foundation that determines whether achievement creates positive legacy or destructive consequences. Looking back on that evening when truth shattered assumptions and justice prevailed through patient preparation and strategic revelation, I understood that real victory came not from defeating my brother's schemes, but from protecting people I loved while maintaining integrity under pressure that could have justified retaliation or revenge. The $8 billion in investment success meant nothing compared to rebuilt family relationships based on honesty, respect, and genuine appreciation for each person's unique contributions to our shared goals. Marcus's betrayal had revealed the importance of character-based judgment over superficial impressions, while my parents' favoritism had demonstrated how assumptions could blind people to qualities that really matter in relationships and business partnerships. The painful process of truth-telling and consequence acceptance had created opportunities for growth that might never have emerged through continued deception and hidden resentment. The story that began with humiliation and betrayal had transformed into a legacy of innovation, integrity, and social impact that would influence future generations of business leaders who understood that lasting success required alignment between personal values and professional behavior. Truth had indeed set us free, though the freedom came through accountability rather than escape from responsibility. As I finish sharing this story with you, I want to ask a question that goes to the heart of what we've learned together. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where people underestimated you or dismissed your potential based on appearances rather than character? How did you handle that challenge, and what did the experience teach you about the difference between recognition and self-worth? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Your experiences might inspire others who are facing similar challenges with family dynamics, workplace recognition, or staying true to your values when others don't see your worth. If this story resonated with you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming adversity through patience, integrity, and strategic thinking. Share this story with someone who might need encouragement to stay true to their values even when facing criticism or dismissal from people whose opinions matter to them. Thank you for joining me on this journey of discovery about family success and the power of character over appearances. Remember that your worth isn't determined by other people's recognition, but by the integrity you maintain and the positive impact you create even when no one is watching or giving you credit. Until next time, may you find the courage to stay true to yourself while building something meaningful that benefits others regardless of whether you receive immediate recognition or appreciation for your efforts.